'cause I'm not like everybody else. No, no, I'm not like everybody else. I'm not like everybody else, man. I'm not like everybody else. And I don't want to live my life like everybody else. And I don't want to be destroyed like everybody else. And I don't want to get a job like everybody else. Because I'm not like everybody else. See you singing what I...
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You're tuned in to ResearchRoadshow.com, and this is News Others Miss for January 26th. I opened that episode with the video of Tony Soprano, where they're portraying Tony Soprano as just a regular guy, but a little different. And we're going to see that theme repeatedly over the next few months in the major media and even in 99% of the alternative media. That your local NSA agent, your local CIA agent, they're all just regular guys doing their job. You punch your clock, just like Wile E. Coyote and the Sheepdog. They're just doing their job. You know, they get up in the morning and they go to work. It's a job just like everyone else, right? But a little different. Harry the Greek is truly different. And here's a good example. Well, let's bring up for our newer subscribers, let's bring up Harry's website. NewsOthersMiss.com. Now, News Others Miss is a relatively new site. I think Harry's only opened that in February of this year. Before that, it was called brassballs.blog. And brassballs.blog still gets a lot of views, but News Others Miss has a catchier title, and it gets to the point that Harry wants to emphasize. There are many things that are being talked about at at work, at the coffee pot, in the lunchroom. People talk about certain topics. Why do they talk about those topics? For example, Bill Gates. Why does everyone talk about Bill Gates? Well, maybe it's because Bill Gates is very frequently, and has been for the past 4 years, on page 2 or page 3 of the New York Times. And Bill Gates is also on page 2 or page 3 on almost every issue of the Washington Post. Why is that? Because they want people to talk about Bill Gates. For Bill Gates or against Bill Gates, they want people to talk about Bill Gates. They don't want you to talk about Warren Buffett. Okay? Especially in March of 2020, Warren Buffett should have been all over the press, the alternative press, because Warren Buffett has investments in many, many biolabs. Excuse me, that's not proven. Warren Buffett has investments, key investments, in biological laboratories, university laboratories, and spin-offs, startups in the life sciences sector. They don't want people to talk about Warren Buffett. In fact, in March of 2020 and April of 2020, nobody was talking about Warren Buffett and the fact that his investments in life sciences companies was much greater than his investments in railroads and chocolate and real estate put together. Why was no? Because they don't want people talking about Warren Buffett in that manner. They want people to think of Warren Buffett as just a kindly old grandpa who likes ice cream cones. Another time we'll talk about the ice cream cones. Anyway, why is Harry's site different? Okay, let's take this one. Voting machine programmers live overseas. You can read the article for yourself, but this news is important news if you were following Dominion voting systems after January of 2021. In the aftermath of the January 6th episode in Washington, D.C., many American voters were suddenly quite interested in Dominion. And Dominion's, the news, quote unquote news that was leaked out of Dominion voting systems was very strategically leaked. One piece over there and another piece over here to keep the divide and conquer going. Not only between left and the right in America, which is not the same as the European left and the European right, but even between different sides of the GOP, or what we would call the MAGA crowd. They're dividing the MAGA crowd with the abilities of a surgeon. They're dividing the MAGA crowd using Dominion. So Harry's article touches on things about Dominion that nobody else is talking about. Why is that? Let's go to the second story. Congress reinstates China's Confucius Institute. This was eye-opening even for me, because I had heard about maybe a year ago. It might have been Harry, but I heard about Confucius Institute a year ago, a little bit more than a year ago. But with everything else that was going on at the time, with the Ospreys do a lot of research. We have a lot of different topics that we cover. The Confucius Institute, the importance of the Confucius Institute slipped away. So now, thanks to Harry's reporting, I'm beginning to understand how important that really was. And I should have. Why didn't I pick up on the Confucius Institute back in November of 2021? And Harry's article begins to explain. Because even within the red-pilled community, they are getting better and better at like several of us say, we're getting trained in our algorithms. They have each one of us profiled to a T, so the algorithms know which stories to push each one of us towards. So here again, Harry is like nobody else. This is a big one. This is a really big one. And I'll spend a few minutes on this. The former Connect boss swears China stores its election data. Okay, let's open this up. Now, I think I spoke briefly last week about this Grant Bradley. He's a whistleblower. And for me, right now, he's a bona fide whistleblower. He had a 13-page affidavit in which he says, yes, we stored that data for which Eugene Yu is on trial with criminal charges. We stored that data in China. It took him a while. He should have come out with it many months ago, at least on October 5th, after Eugene Yu's arrest. But at least he did come forward with his affidavit, okay? This is a big deal. If you were against the, if your big issue was election fraud, then you should be asking now, why are all my, all the subscriptions, I pay $3 a month for this subscription, $6 a month for this subscription. How come those that were talking about election fraud since February of 2021 are not talking about Grant Bradley or his 13-page affidavit? That should be the number one issue at the local coffee pot. everyone should be talking about Grant Bradley's affidavit, in which he says, effectively, yes, Eugene Yu should be on trial because the data we gathered did go over to China, and there's absolutely no reason for that. So I'll bring up again, thewarroom.org. All you hear day after day on warroom.org, hour after hour, is China, China, China. We have to go punish those Chinese, because Chinese are completely different than Americans. And there's no coming and going, there's no revolving door between American corporations and Chinese corporations, or between Chinese banks and American banks. There's no revolving door there. So China is completely independent of anything American. And so we, as independent Americans, have to go over to China. Warroom.org has not said one single word about Eugene Yu or Lionel Nee. Why is that? Because Harry is different. And I'll give you another example. Who else did not say one single word about Eugene Yu or Lionel Nee in all this time? I think his name is James O'Keefe III, right? Mr. Undercover. Now here's before you get all bent out of shape, listen to my reasoning. We at Research Roadshow and some of our affiliates believe that Harry the Greek is one of the best researchers, bar none. And he has lost traffic. His traffic has gone down from 25,000 unique page views per week to just over 1,000 per week in 4 years. His traffic has gone way down. Not to mention his Patreon or mine. So why is it that in that same arc of time where Harry the Greek lost 95% of his viewership or unique page views, that James O'Keefe III gained 3.2 million subscribers and 25,000 page views per hour? How is that possible if he is also attacking the so-called New World Order, which is the same as the Old World Order? How is that possible? Because they want you to watch James O'Keefe III and keep your eyeballs there. And the best example is yesterday's revelation. A Mr. Jordan Tristan Walker, that's Jordan Jordon, was caught undercover spilling the beans, telling everything he knows. But the third time I watched it, the undercover video, it became apparent that this is exactly like just after the Twin Towers fell in New York City. They found 3 passports virtually untouched. Despite the fires and the burning rubble, these 3 passports were magically untouched. Jordan Tristan Walker is laying out in such detail, so simply, that even a 6th grader, a literal 6th grader, a young child of maybe 13 years old can understand precisely what he's saying. There's no reading between the lines. You don't have to do any mental gymnastics. Mr. Jordan Tristan Walker is laying it out perfectly so that people mostly the MAGA crowd will talk about this over and over and over. And therefore they don't need to go to Harry the Greek's website. I get this all the time in Italy. John, non devo sapere più perché io so tutto, ho visto il TV, ho visto tutto. I know what I know because I saw it on TV, okay, or in this case, the internet. I saw it with my own two eyes. Jordan was caught on video telling us the truth. Are you sure? Because James O'Keefe III got 3.2 million subscribers in the same time period when Harry the Greek lost 95% of his page views. I think maybe, just maybe, that Mr. O'Keefe, maybe he's well-intentioned, but the distribution channels are pumping him up. Okay, the syndicates are pumping him up. That is the key to his success. Now, he thinks it's because he combs his hair very well, not a hair out of place. He dresses in a $1,400 suit, and he works hard. He works 4 times harder than Harry, even 5 times harder than Harry the Greek. And that's why he's getting such an exponential increase in page views. But maybe he doesn't realize, and I'm not saying he doesn't work hard, but maybe the difference between Mr. O'Keefe and Harry the Greek is that Harry the Greek is coming out with the real news, the things that people should be talking about. And another good example is FOSUP 56. Most of you have pretty much forgotten about FOSUP 56, but in 2018, in May of 2018, that was the biggest, for me anyway, that was the biggest news of the year. Okay, COVID had not hit yet. Everyone should have been talking about FOSUP 56, especially people who call themselves conservative, with the conservative attitudes towards government spending, monetary policy, fiscal policy, and so on. FOSUP 56 took away the American voters or American taxpayers' ability to decide where their tax money would be spent. If you email me with questions, I will go into FOSUP 56 in a dedicated half-hour special. But the point remains that nobody was talking about FOSUP 56 except Catherine Austin Fitts and 2 or 3 other people. And at the time, Catherine Austin Fitts had, I think, 39,000 subscribers to her Twitter. And that's exactly when her Twitter got pulled down, talking about FOSUP 56. Those are the things, these are the issues that most people miss, even the alternative subscribers. Let's go to the next one. Okay, and then I'm going to show a photograph. All right, here's the first of 2 photographs I want you to look well at. One, the gentleman on the left is Fauci. Everybody knows Fauci. Fauci bad. Fauci bad. That's all we're getting from most of the alternative press. Fauci bad. Don't look at the 9 other guys who work for him, and 20 or so over in Switzerland. Okay. Remember what Bobby Kennedy Sr. said about those guys in Switzerland 1 year before his untimely demise. The guy on the right is Tedros. Why is nobody reporting? Okay, some people are beginning to talk about the World Health Organization, but when Harry came out with the treaty, I think it was a little more than a year ago, when Harry said that a treaty had been signed by individuals within not even governmental positions. These are paragovernmental positions, like the NIH. There is, and the NIH is certainly, it's debatable whether or not it's constitutional or not, but it was not part of the founding fathers' initial package. The NIH was created with the influence of several powerful people on the East Coast and a couple, maybe 20 in Switzerland. Anyway, this photograph, this photograph made the news, but nobody covered the signing of this treaty in the detail that Harry the Greek did. Okay, why not? Let's bring up the second photo and I'll explain why. I'm not gonna pull up the photo. I think it's actually a little bit dangerous. Okay, I know what I'm gonna do. Now, why am I going on so long about the articles that Harry has written and that no one else in the alternative press is covering? Because as Americans, we like to think that everything that happens to us is because we made strategic decisions by electing people, men and women, who would have an interest, who would take decisions in our best interest. But now we have to question whether or not the people taking those decisions, whether they have an R after their name or a D, are truly thinking about our best interests, especially when it comes to matters of protecting us from disease or from war. You know, we just sent 200,000 Marines over to the Ukraine, or they're close by, okay, to that part of Europe. Did Americans really decide anything having to do with the Maidan situation or with the 7 color revolutions in that part of the world? Did Americans really decide that those things? Okay, let me pull up I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to put up a photo which ties together all 6 of Harry's stories. Remember that those of you who are older than I might remember read-only memory, ROM. If you had a computer with 2 megabytes of read-only memory, that was a big load of memory. ROM. Now, what happens if you go to Google and you look for MIT ROM and the joint on your leg called the knee? What happens if you put those 3 things together? Share screen, Google search. So if you put MIT read-only memory, ROM, and knee together, you get these things that are not exactly gloves. They're something else. So this is a code word I'm going to use because the person or persons represented by this figure is central to all 6 of Harry's Harry's last 6 stories. If you want to learn more about this person or persons and his network somewhere in New England, and you want to know exactly how he is tied to every one of Harry's last 6 stories, please join us in the Citizens Intel Monday and Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern, or Tuesdays and Thursdays at 9 a.m. Eastern, and you'll learn a lot more. But if you cannot, because you're working and it's inconvenient to join us at those times, then please ask your friends and neighbors to question how do they know what they know? It sounds kind of, it sounds kind of banal, but ask them, how do they know what they know? If they say, I know John McCain was a good man because he did such and such for Arizona, ask them if maybe John McCain could afford to follow policy X because a lot of other Republicans, quote unquote Republicans, were controlled enough, were in the palm of the Eastern establishment and a couple of guys from Switzerland. And therefore it was safe for John McCain to be on the side of the conservatives in that particular issue. Okay. Ask people how they know what they know. Everyone's an expert on Bill Gates now. Everybody. My niece who never followed politics up until about a year ago, now she's an expert on Bill Gates. She knows everything there is to know about Bill Gates. But she has no clue. She's never heard the name Warren Buffett. And you say, well, John, no, I'm 63 years old. I'm much older than your niece. I know what I know. But how do you know what you know? Because James O'Keefe III told you so and showed you an undercover video or two? It is very important to read Harry's stories and follow every link. I underlined for you for the 50th time. Every one of Harry's links is to a government website or a big NGO like the World Bank or IMF or the WHO. Please follow each one of Harry's links and get the story straight in your own head so that when these debates finally come up, and they will come up, maybe it'll be too late, but they will come up. For example, the WHO transforming into the World Health Authority, by which we surrender, all the US states surrender their authority. They've already surrendered most of it to the federal government, which they shouldn't have. But after the WHO to WHA transition, they will have effectively passed all their sovereignty over to the WHO. And the debates will come about. How did we get here? Eyeball hours. It's all about eyeball hours. Not enough people who care about their kids and their nephews are reading Harry the Greek. And even those who do catch an occasional Harry the Greek article are not doing the legwork. They're not going to their local library. In the case I talked about in last episode, NOACA. The people in Ohio are not going to the library. They're not getting the microfiche. They're not getting the microfilms. They're not doing the hard work it's going to take to get the evidence, to write the 4-page amicus briefs to give to your local elected representative. And if you don't do the work, whatever happens, happens. I mean, we deserve whatever we get. If we're all going to become robots, or if our grandkids are going to become robots, we deserve it because we didn't read Harry the Greek and the precious few others that are covering the news others miss. Thank you. I'm sorry I had to be so short tonight. And I'm going to pull up one more thing really quick because a lot of people don't know what I mean by FASA 56. This is just a quick screen share. This is back in January 14th of 2019, but it was already a problem for Catherine Austin Fitts in 2017. How did they pass it? They sneaked it under the veil of the Christmas holiday, right? In the later part of 2017. And that was still on Trump's watch, remember? They always do this to us. They use the holidays, or in Italy, they use Ferragosto, the summer break. When everyone's focused on good times, then they pass legislation that really, really hits you in the pocketbook very hard. All right, thank you very much for tuning in tonight. Please keep me honest. Send me your questions by email. The email is john@researchroadshow.com or research.roadshow.5@gmail. Thank you, everybody. Be well, do good work, and keep smiling, because it literally drives the AI crazy.